On October 28th, Brazilians will head to the polls with far-right candidate Jair Bolsonaro expected to win the presidency. He's an ex-army captain who makes Trump and Duterte look like moderates. He's known for praising torture, telling a female congresswoman she was too ugly for him to rape her, and saying he'd rather his son die than come out as gay. So what's behind this sudden rise of an inflammatory figure like Bolsonaro, who threatens violence against his opponents and yearns for military dictatorship, and is the world's fourth largest democracy under threat if he wins? Joining me to discuss this are David Miranda, a city councilman for Rio de Janeiro from the Socialism and Liberty Party, who ran for a congressional seat earlier this month, and Monica Herz, a professor of international relations at the Catholic University of Rio. We also did reach out to several Bolsonaro supporters who all declined our invitation. David, Monica, thank you both for joining me on UpFront. Monica, why are Brazilians voting in such huge numbers for a man who suggested Brazil should return to a military regime, has threatened his opponents? What has happened to millions of Brazilians, the world is wondering?
I think that there are processes that are peculiar to Brazil, and some of these processes are more international. There is a huge feeling of exclusion from social and economic life, but also exclusion from political life. And people are reacting with indignation. And they found in this candidate a channel to express their indignation, because he is so different from all the other political parties and political leaders that we have had. So it is indeed very sad that no other political party or political leader was able to channel this feeling of indignation. But we are waiting for the results, and there is a huge amount of activity in civil society and reaction to the terrible things that he has been saying and defending. And
on the terrible things he's been saying, Monica, the international media have called him Brazil's Trump. But in many ways, he's far more extreme than Donald Trump, isn't he?
Yes, I think that it's quite different, actually. It's related, but it's quite different. The way he talks about violence as a solution for internal problems is quite different from Donald Trump. There are similarities in terms of the kind of populism from the right, but in fact, it is quite different and more extreme. I totally agree with you.
David, what do you make of the comparisons between Bolsonaro and Trump?
Yeah, I think Monica had said that right. I think he's more close to the Philippines president or the Egypt dictatorship. We can say that, the way he expressed so much hate and the hate speech has already have riots since he won the first turn, burst into the streets. So he's just used people's fear and expectations that he can be the person who can break the system they desperately need to be break.
And David,
so yeah, he's nothing like Trump.
Your party,
yes,
thanks to the Bolsonaro surge, the very left-wing Socialism and Liberty Party, won just 5 seats in the lower house. It's one of the reasons you didn't get elected to parliament yourself. The centre-left Workers' Party, the PT, despite governing Brazil for 14 years, trailed Bolsonaro by 17% in the first round of the election. So isn't a lot of his success to do with the failures of the Brazilian left?
Yes, we have an anti-PT movement that is growing since 2013, and it grows so much. Lula, it's in a prison now.
The former
president. From the prison, he tried to win this election, and that was the mistake that PT led us to. So there was a split between the left and a lot of fight, but now in the second round, we're united together. Nevertheless, just have to say, PT has made a lot of mistakes along the years. So the part of the left criticized PT for that. I think other candidates would be able to beat Bolsonaro, but Haddad will see.
And am I right in saying, Monica, he doesn't have corruption allegations against him, which helps him in a country where a lot of politicians are corrupt?
I think that the Brazilian political system is actually very much prone to corruption. This is a huge problem. It came out during the Workers' Party tenure because they actually allowed it to come out. and they allowed it to be investigated. So they are, of course, to blame for their involvement and the people that were involved in corruption. But it is not true that other parties and Bolsonaro and the people close to him were not involved in corruption. And these investigations have been very much focused on PT and the other parties that have been in government. They haven't yet been in government.
No, that's true. That's to give him a chance, like with Trump. Let me ask you this, Monica. How worried should we be, the rest of the world and Brazilians themselves, that Brazil, the world's fourth largest democracy, could head back into an era of military rule? Bolsonaro has praised the former military dictator. He's praised colonels who tortured people. He has asked for a celebration of the military dictatorship. I think he wanted to mark the 50th anniversary of Brazil's military dictatorship a few years ago. How worried should we be that military rule is on the horizon again in Brazil?
Well, that depends on what you call military rule. I don't think there's going to be a coup in Brazil. I think that the military are going to be absolutely central to this new government if Bolsonaro is elected. I think they see this process as, their ability to acquire control over government and the state.
David, let me ask you this, David. Can Brazilian democracy survive a Bolsonaro presidency, in your view?
Definitely. I mean, it's we are talking about a young democracy, but we are talking about a huge country, and there's a lot of people fighting for it. But I want to just go back, like the part that you asked about the corruption about Bolsonaro. It is true that we have accusations that he used money for this election to spread fake news through companies. Now that we are not allowed to use company names for money for anything here in Brazil. So he's not like the good guy that is not corrupt. He is corrupt. He just not is corrupt in the eyes of the people because of like how he's trying to present himself. He is. So, but going back to the democracy, I think we're going to have a resistance. There's going to be a resistance everywhere, like with artists already, journalists are speaking and going forward, quitting their job.
David,
people are going to the streets.
Unquote resistance in the US, which does represent the majority of Americans, in Brazil it looks like the majority of Brazilians, according to the polls and according to what we're looking at for the second round, do support Bolsonaro, sadly.
It's
yes,
half,
they do.
right?
They do. Like
It's 40% of the Brazilian population does not support him and would not vote for him in any instance. So let's not exaggerate.
That still leaves him with the majority. And Monica, let me put this to you. Do you think Brazilian democracy can survive a Bolsonaro presidency?
I think that the electoral process can survive. I think that many of the rights that the 1988 Constitution created are in danger. But, rights, we lose rights, and then we fight and we get back to them.
Last question for you both. David, you're a high-profile gay leftist. Monica, you're a female academic. Do both of you worry about your personal safety or security in a Brazil led by Jair Bolsonaro?
I think that we all worry about our security in terms of the level of violence that is already happening in the streets, because he's asking people to be violent, because the motto is violent. But for sure, people that are on the left, that are gay, and that are indigenous population will suffer enormously, for sure. The people that live in the poor parts of the country, the people that suffer from racist discrimination, all these people need the law to be protected.
David, are you worried?
Yeah, I'm very worried. Like Marielle Franco shot 4 times in her head and killed. She was elected official, and there was no answer for her killing this year. Bolsonaro just said 2 weeks ago that he wants every police who kills when they're using the uniform not be persecuted. So he's giving a white card to every police to kill in the city. And they're going to hunt down. They're already hunting down LGBTs, people in the favelas, black people are slaughtered. we are the people going to be in the front line. We are the ones who are going to be get shot in first. Obviously, we're afraid, obviously, but fight for democracy is the only way we keep forward. Even if he is elected, there will be a resistance, and the country is going to pass for a hard time. But I think the country will have and will prevail. Remember, we are such a young democracy. We are 30 years old of democracy, so it's hard for people to remember what democracy is when this is such a small thing, and this generation don't even know how to give a value to it.
David, Monica, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you both for joining me on UpFront. That's our show. UpFront will be back next week.